129 Saturday the something, heading to MI40. He might be a silent partner in the background, but I do have Sean sitting next to me chewing on a gingerbread no-cow bar, one of my favorite ones. Shout out no-cow if you're gluten-free, dairy-free, you love animals and want to get a animal-free protein bar. 20 grams of protein per serving. Check them out. The link is in my bio. Use my code and save 20%. Anyways, so fuck it. Last time we were driving, we were talking about drugs, recreational drugs, psilocybin. Let's talk about other drugs today, because why not? A lot of people have been seeing my more recent Instagram posts, have been asking me, John, are you natural? Do you juice? The answer is, I don't juice because I don't have time for like a juicer, but I'm also not natural. So we can hop into that. I do use PEDs, performance enhancing drugs. That's a very broad subject, so there's no way in this 17-minute drive I'll be able to get to all of that. But to give you guys kind of a brief history, this was not the route I ever planned to go down. When I first began bodybuilding, I made some really great progress back, it was like 15 years ago. My first couple years, I made great progress, and based on the speed of that progress, I was like, oh, I won't need drugs. I'm gonna be just like this guy on the magazine cover in a couple months, just watch. It didn't quite happen. Things slow down. When you first start lifting, you do progress fairly quickly. There's like what they call like beginner or noob gains, and then those start to slow down. Now with proper programming, coaching, training, nutrition, you can still make progress for probably somewhere between your first 5 and 10 years of lifting. That's probably about where it would take to hit your natty potential, assuming everything is done perfectly. Now granted, I didn't have a great coach at the start. Everybody told me you couldn't be a vegan bodybuilder, so I was kind of figuring it out as I went. That being said, I decided after, I guess it was probably 5 or 6 years of training, I had never competed in anything post high school. Like I wrestled, but never anything for weightlifting related or bodybuilding related. So I decided, what does it take to do a show? I'm natural. Googled natural bodybuilding shows in Florida, signed up for one that was 8 months out, and put everything into it. Throughout this prep, I went from like 200 pounds to, I think the lowest I saw the scale touch was like 158. So I lost over 40 pounds over the course of like 8 months. Again, I didn't have a coach. I had no guidance. So I didn't know literally what the fuck I was doing. I was doing over an hour of cardio a day, 6 days a week, on top of training 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I was eating like 1,600 calories, guys. Like, would not recommend it. Doing that for about 4 months destroyed my natural hormone production. I never got strong again after that show. And this is why it's so important to hire a good coach that's going to monitor you and not let you kill yourself the way I killed myself in this prep. And after it, I couldn't get strong. If I gained any weight, it was always fat and not muscle. I stopped having erections. I had no interest in sex. It was kind of a dark time. So I was like, well, I'll fix this. A year later, I hadn't fixed it. So I was like, all right, let me go to the doctor. Let me just at least tell myself that I'm overthinking this. There's something else missing. Get some blood work done. Make sure I'm okay. Well, the test comes back, and I'm not a doctor, but I believe at the time the natural range for testosterone that you want to be in is somewhere between, according to the labs that I had pulled, 260 nanograms per deciliter up to 1,200. Well, I was like 263. So my doctor said, you're fine, buddy. You're still in the reference range. And I'm sitting here thinking, 260 to 1,200, and I'm 263. That seems low. on top of not being able to get stronger, only getting fatter, not having erections. I even said that. I said, shouldn't I, as a 22-year-old male, want to have sex and be able to? And he's like, well, maybe you should just like focus on your diet and your sleep. And this is coming from me, who's anal as fuck. I tracked my macros. I trained as best I knew how at the time. I slept 9 hours every night. Something was off here, and it was because of what I had done to myself competing naturally. I was able to wiggle my way into getting an appointment with an endocrinologist. And what she said is that, well, no, your test is invalid. You did your test in the afternoon. You have to do your tests in the morning to be most accurate for when we want to see your testosterone results. And she's not fully incorrect there. When you, as a male, wake up, there is a bolus of testosterone in your system. That's when it's going to be the highest. So if you're watching this and you want to get your testosterone checked, yes, do it first thing when you wake up. What she didn't understand, but we later found out, is that I woke up in the afternoons. I was working at that time the night shift. So I would work from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So I listened to her. I wanted to appease her and at least try her out. So I said, okay, we'll do a morning test. We'll do an 8 a.m. test after I've worked a 12-hour shift. My levels came back not at 263, but at 185. That is low. That is bottom of the barrel. That is super duper low. So I was like, well, I'm happy to do another test if you want, based on when I wake up, which is in the afternoon after a good night's sleep. And she's like, okay, yeah, we'll do it your way. So we did. And my levels came back at like 220. So again, below the natural range. This is like, this guy needs TRT. He needs to be on some sort of hormone replacement therapy, testosterone replacement therapy, something to bring his testosterone levels into a natural range to where he can function as a normal male human being. So we decided to go on TRT. I believe my dose at the time, she wanted to do somewhere between 50 and 75 milligrams per week. She preferred one injection. However, if you know about ester lengths, basically how long that testosterone takes to be dispersed into your system, you would know that one shot a week will kind of push you way up and then really drop you down. So we opted for two shots a week, and that was it. I started taking testosterone. I never wanted to go that route. I wanted to be the world's best natural bodybuilder, but through competing naturally, you face a lot of risks. And one of those risks is not having your natural normal hormone production come back after the show. So that being said, I was on TRT for a while. I continued to do my research because usually whenever I do something, I deep dive into it. And I found out that you don't just want to measure your testosterone levels. That's not the only important thing to check while you're injecting testosterone into yourself. You also need to look at other things. Namely, estrogen is one. I didn't know as much about this at the time, but you also really want to check your blood thickness, so like your hematocrit, your hemoglobin. Those are really important values to keep an eye on. But I was mostly concerned about the estrogen. I didn't want to grow man boobs through gynecomastia. Basically, when your estrogen is high in a male, you can start to develop female characteristics, female sex characteristics like breasts. So I said, hey, Miss Endocrinologist, can you please check my estrogen? And she said, no, we don't need to worry about that. And that was like red flag number 10. She had made me feel so uncomfortable throughout this entire process. She accused me, one, of being a steroid user when I walked in the door. I had never touched gear in my life. I didn't want to. I wanted to be that natural bodybuilder. When I asked her, how do I inject this? I've never done this before. Should I put it in my quads? And I quote, she said, no, you don't want to do it like all your gym buddies. You're going to put it in your glutes the way you should. Now, you can do a glute injection. You can also safely do a quad injection. There's many different places you can inject. Pecs, lats, delts. Some people have done traps. Don't recommend that. Don't recommend calves. But it was just the way she talked to me. She made me feel so bad about myself for trying to get help. And the medical system is still way far behind. It's getting better, because this whole story is like 6 or 7 years ago. It's getting better, but she really pushed me away there. And then when she had issues with my blood work, wanting to be checked, wanting to be healthy, wanting to do the right thing, it really pushed me off from wanting to work with her. So I did what I do. See, is there another way? I found out, yeah, you can do blood work on your own. You can, if you know where to look, you can order the blood work. You can go to the Quest or the LabCorp, get it drawn and sent right to you. But the biggest problem at that point is, do you know how to interpret the blood work on your own? So that's something that I had to figure out on my own in my journey. At first I was interested just in the estrogen, but I also needed to learn about tracking your hematocrit, your hemoglobin, because if you're one of those guys that like wants to run their test a little bit higher, other values can start to creep up. And if they creep up too high, it's no longer healthy. It's no longer actually TRT. It's above TRT, above testosterone replacement therapy. It's more of a performance dosage. So you got to have it dialed in right. So that's another service that I offer my clients, is interpreting their blood work. So I found out, okay, yeah, I can get the test on my own. I can get the blood work on my own. I can interpret the blood work on my own. What do I really need the doctor for? So I went ahead, I ordered tests from a couple of different suppliers. I ordered blood work. I went and got it done. And I was like, I can do this myself. And so it was never the route that I wanted to be put on. I wanted to be the world's best natural vegan bodybuilder. But competing without a coach comes with risks, and then also competing as a natural comes with risks. And for me, that risk was losing my natural testosterone production. So I'm forced into this boat, and then the endocrinologist is not very caring or very understanding, and she kind of pushed me away. So I figured, if I'm gonna do this on my own, I might as well really do it. So I'm already here, might as well start bodybuilding using what I have to see, where can I go? Everybody says you can't be a great bodybuilder as a vegan, but not many people are trying it, not at least at this level, not on the enhanced side. So that's where I went. But if you're watching this and you're like, oh, maybe TRT is the right thing for me, you know, it worked for him, there's a lot of questions that you need to ask yourself. So first, is your testosterone even low? Because if it's not low and you're functioning fine, might not want to take that risk of injecting foreign testosterone and then potentially losing that natural production in the future. Because anytime you bring in testosterone or any other steroid, it shuts down your natural production of testosterone, at least for a while. It'll usually come back, but it's not a guarantee. So unless you're willing to inject yourself at least once a week for the rest of your life, don't start a cycle. Don't get on TRT. Don't do it just for fun. This is a big consideration to make. If you're young, probably better to wait. I would say at least mid-20s for most people. Granted, I was 23, but I was already in that low testosterone category, and it wasn't going to fix itself on its own. If you're getting older, you know, 40s, 50s, now might be the time to think about it. At least get it checked. If it's not low, you can ride it out for a while. If it is low, you are going to be healthier and perform better and feel better by being on TRT. So many like professionals, like if you go into any Fortune 500 company, all those CEOs and stuff, they're on TRT because it's like a little bit of a life changer. I'm not necessarily saying that should be the route you should take, but it is something to consider. So with that, it's a very big life decision. Don't do anything rash. If you got questions, you know how to reach me. Send me a DM. We can have this conversation. I've talked to a lot of 16-year-olds out of drug use. I've talked to a lot of other people that are taking way more than they need to take into a lower, more harm reduction side of things, and then they've seen their progress skyrocket. So if you're just taking a bunch of drugs to grow and you don't understand the internal health through blood work, you're not going to be healthy. And if your body's unhealthy, it's not going to want to grow. So there's a lot of aspects that go into this. I've been doing it for 7 years now. This is my life. I have a very good understanding. I'd love to help continue the conversation about harm reduction. I don't think it's important for us to just like never talk about this. It's something that should be talked about, but it shouldn't be like actively encouraged either. So this is me being really real, honest, and out there. guys, don't do drugs just for the sake of doing drugs. It's a big, big, big life decision. And with that, I hope you have the best day ever. I'm about to go kill my legs. Take care.